Good morning, everyone. It is 9 a.m. and this, hello, is our first meeting of 2025. And it's the 14th, so it's not too late to say Happy New Year to everybody, because I think some of you have not seen since last year. So Happy New Year to everyone. Thrive in 25, I believe, is the slogan that we're all going with. As you notice, we have shuffled the deck, so to speak, with our commissioners. We're all still here, but just played musical chairs to keep you guys on your toes. Brian Ashworth, who has been our chair for 2 years and done just a fantastic job, uh, is not going anywhere. He is right here and will be working just as hard. I'll be leaning on him a lot to tell me what I need to do. But I want to just first personally thank Brian, because I think Brian has done a fantastic job in leading us over the last 2 years. I think you guys agree. If you would just. So with that, Amy, roll call, please.
Commissioner Ashworth.
Here.
Commissioner Banks.
Here.
Commissioner Hassler.
Here.
Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Wild.
Here.
We do have a new member to introduce to you, but we will do that a little later when he arrives. Before then, though, Chief, would you go ahead and lead us in the pledge?
Lieutenant.
I pledge allegiance to
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, thank you. With that, we will just hold, Chief, we'll go ahead and get started with you, and then when Tony gets here, we'll squeeze him in.
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Good morning, all. Thank you all for being here this morning. I'm going to start out with some commendations for a couple of officers. Police Officer Marcus Bechtold. Come on up, sir. Are they together here? And Police Officer Jerry Ball. Marcus, congratulations. It's yours. And hold on a second. Are you guys together with it? Come on. You take that one. Thank you. Lieutenant?
members of the board, members of the audience. I want to present to you first, we'll go with Detective Jerry Ball. He was my officer for several years in the 3rd Precinct. He most recently, due to his performance, was chosen to go to our Criminal Investigation Bureau. So in February of 2024, he was called to a residence for some suspicious activity. It was noted that they were individuals at the address were cutting locks from a trailer in the driveway. Officer Ball arrived on scene along with Officer Bechtold, just so happens. Went to contact an individual on scene. That individual fled the area in a truck. Officer Bechtold conducted his investigation in the driveway of that trailer, determining it to be a stolen trailer. They contacted some witnesses in the area, and it was noted that individuals from the residence on Starboard, where this occurred, had spent some time unloading the trailer and were taking items inside the house. Instead of just leaving things as they were and just recovering the trailer, Officer Ball took the time to push a little harder, dig a little deeper. He drew up some search warrants for the property, for cell phones of the suspect, and in doing so, got access to the house, the garage, and ended up recovering thousands of dollars worth of stolen items, several stolen vehicles, I believe 49 identities that had been stolen from individuals across the nation. So I want to recognize him here today. And also Officer Bechtold for their hard work making the department look good. Congratulations, gentlemen. Officer Bechtold has a separate incident in which he was recognized. In March of last year, he concluded an investigation, a long-term investigation into the ongoing rape of a teen with some special needs, maybe a mental or decreased mental capacity. He went to the address for a domestic call. Doing his investigation, he learned that the argument was actually about the rape of this young woman. He took the time, instead of passing this off to our Criminal Investigative Bureau, he took the initiative and put in a ton of hard work through interviews of his own, forensic interviews of both the victim and a witness, and some DNA evidence. He was able to prove that a sexual assault did occur on our victim, and a $150,000 bond and warrants for rape second and sodomy second were issued. Great job. Great job, Mark.
You guys want to meet the board?
Well done. Well done. Well done. Show the deputy how to dress.
Hey, also, you got anybody, Director, you got anybody here with you? Brought your wife? Thanks for being here. Stand up so we can recognize. All right, thank you. Okay, next up, Captain Jerry Kelly. Captain Kelly has been awarded a life-saving award for some actions that he did at the Spirit Church. Charlie.
They're looking
Charlie.
for you.
Reverend Niels Williams wanted to be here this morning, but he got the notice late, so he wanted to send his regards for what Jerry did at his church, okay? Jerry? Sure, sir.
Thank you.
Colonel, sorry.
Well, okay, on July 7th, 2024, Captain Kelly was working part-time at a local church that the chief just described. A person had a heart attack on scene, and Captain Kelly, after 30 years of service, jumped in like he was a one-year probationary police officer. Captain Kelly did over 250 compressions, which resulted in the saving of a life. I find it pretty awesome that Captain Kelly, after 30 years and being in every different position of this police department, is ready to jump in at a moment's notice and just do an outstanding job. I'd like to also say that he did not want to be recognized, but his officers came to me and turned in this. But his actions reflect highly on this police department, and he's just a great guy. So,
All right, man. Good job, Captain.
Captain, you got anybody here with you? Just who? Department of Families. You got a great family with you there, so thank you. All right. I have a promotion that I'd like to make if I could do so.
Please.
Um,
Yeah, can we vote on this promotion?
Hold on this. Probably won't take a vote. Anyway, back in June of 2024, I had the opportunity to promote a deputy chief. And it was at that time that I was only able to promote him to acting deputy chief. But if he tells you right now what he goes through as an acting deputy chief, he's ready to get his pay for being the deputy chief now. Okay. Colonel, would you come up, sir? Chief, congratulations, man.
Congratulations, sir. Bring anybody with you today?
Hmm?
I left your phone on the desk.
Okay.
Where's Mr. Albert? That's all.
You're gonna get better family.
He said, just hide him.
Chief, other than your lieutenant colonels who are here with you, did you bring anybody? Terry?
We've been beating her up pretty bad.
We've been beating her. Mr.
Good
Chairman,
looking,
that's
good
all I
looking
have.
suit, good looking suit too, by the way. sir.
Yes. That's all I have, sir,
All right, thank you.
except for my report.
Please proceed.
Okay. Terry, you up first. And we've been killing Terry and Sandy. Where's Sandy and Sarah? Yeah. Deputy Chief's gonna take you out to lunch on his pay, okay?
I'm ready.
When you get
It's gonna be a
paid.
big lunch.
Ooh,
Vera.
morning.
Okay, I'm 24. You probably noticed
Yes.
on the sheet that I added a lot more lines, a lot more surpluses and deficits, just to get a better picture, because it's at the end. The books are still open for another month and a half, but it's looking like where I can get a better idea. So we have a surplus of 7.8 million, which includes the pay down that's happening tomorrow. That's why it's so much lower, which I'm estimating at about $4 million that cost. The OT hours went down, it looks like, for the year. The dollar amount, of course, is higher for the higher rates. I'm sure that has a lot to do with 12-hour shifts. And, then that's all I really have for 2024, unless you have any questions.
Question?
Yeah, I have a couple if you don't mind,
Please.
sir. The other personnel services, we underspent by $1 million. What would have been in there? Or maybe we should wait for.
So that was the, we had cameras budgeted, the camera system budgeted in the wrong place, and it was like $1 million, it's like just a little bit over actually. So then if you go down, you'll see, in 27, 21, or 527,210, you'll see that there's a shortage, 980,000.
All right, thank you, because that was the next. Nope, that was great. That was the next question. And the last one is on rents and leases. So we vacated the third, we vacated the first, and yet we're still $68,000 overspent for the year?
We didn't get in as quickly as us, thought we did, so we didn't have to budget.
Oh, all right,
So
thank
we're
you.
still paying at the first.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Mike?
No questions for me, thank you.
Then on the 2025 budget, the budget is 172,298,806. Then the CBA put in another $10,003,169 for a total of $182,301,975. So, and I really don't have anything else to report on that, but I just kind of wanted to let you know what the CBA costs. And then ARPA, we have spent $17,111,741. We have a little over $1 million pending in reimbursements. That's it.
That ARPA ended at the December 31st, is that correct?
No, wait, it's December 31st of this year.
But everything had to be committed by
Yeah.
31st?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, so POs are all done and that, and then we actually have until June of 26 to get all the invoices in. Which are pretty good about it, Kevin Underwood is like the project manager and he gets much out of that.
Yeah, unfortunately, Kevin.
Not anymore.
Is left to pursue other opportunities, so. we-
I got his last question.
He's certainly been a great asset to us in the buildings program.
Okay, anything else?
Questions? Thanks, Terry. Appreciate you. They can take you someplace good now.
Thompson, welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Next up is, who's doing crime? You got, lucky you.
I'll wait till I get done with these requests.
Good morning, members of the board.
Morning.
All right, we have
December and all of 2024 totals.
See if we can.
Oh. I'm good.
So far, so good.
It's not going. It's not going to the next slide.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Nope, nope.
Sorry, I forgot to excuse you guys.
All right, thanks.
Forgot to excuse you. Thanks for coming. Nice meeting you.
Okay, we'll try that again. Thank you, ma'am. All right, for our notable events, these are all from our Bureau of Professional Standards. Citizen complaints were up 20% compared to last year, but these are smaller numbers. If we compare it to 2022, we're actually down 25%. So it's not really showing a change there. Internal investigations were down nearly 16%. Use of force incidents were up 11%. That's been fluctuating throughout the year, but that's a much better number than we were seeing in earlier months. Department vehicle accidents were down 20%. There were only 6 in December. That was our least month for accidents. And vehicle pursuits were down nearly 20% as well. In December, we had 3 pursuits, even with 136 documented failure to yields. And speaking of those failure to yields, the entire year is similar to each month when we've caught up, where there's about 56% occurring in Jennings and North County. And then when you include South County, it jumps up to about 70%. For our highlights, this is just for the month of December. Our arrests are 733, it's down 14 from November. Guns seized are up 15 to 74, and DWI reports are up 27 with 68 for the month. Nearly 50% of those are from highway safety. We have 1 officer back from leave, and another one is coming back this month, so I'm expecting to see those rise a bit more. Getting into our crime data, our homicides for the year are down 5% compared to 2023. Aggravated assaults with hands, feet, and fist is up 31%, but that's actually the lowest it's been all year long. And all aggravated assaults are down 1.5%. In total, crimes against persons is up 3%. For our homicides by the numbers, in December, crimes against persons investigated 5 homicides. 3 are within our boundaries, and then there's 1 in Country Club Hills and 1 in Ferguson. They have 64 homicides for the year, and it will show on there that there's 42 for our areas, but 3 of those are from different years where they initiated and then were declared homicides in 24.
That was my question. I saw where you had the 3 for December. Was that included in that 39 number that we just saw in the previous one?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. For crimes against property, most of these numbers are the exact same that they've been in the last couple of months. Robberies are down 20%, larcenies are down nearly 16%, and motor vehicle thefts are down nearly 37%. For motor vehicles, 2023 was a major outlier with the Hyundai and Kia thefts, so we're expecting to not see those numbers match. Overall, crimes against property is down 16%.
Ellie, do we know why? I mean, scratch the motor vehicle theft, which you've identified. That's still some really nice numbers. Do we know why?
There's not a specific reason why. I would say it's, we're locking people up for some of these crimes ahead of time, so they're not repeating some of the same crimes. And otherwise, it's just a good trend to see. Overall, we'll see that crimes against persons, property, and society is down 11% compared to the previous year. That will diminish a little bit as more of these reports get finalized and the crimes get entered, but we're still going to see a decrease compared to 2023. And crimes against society also, that's been about the same the last few months. In total, it's down 15%. And then this is a slide showing crimes against persons, property, and society by month. Our highest month is May with over 1,800, and our lowest month is December with 1,400 total. That's what we expect to see with warmer months having higher crimes, colder months having lower. With all of these statistics that we present each month, it's only showing you a small glimpse of what is happening behind the scenes. There's also the Missouri Coalition for Roadway Safety that releases a lot of data on accidents, especially fatalities. And there have been some concerning trends for all of St. Louis County. Accidents with fatalities are up 5% compared to 2023. And accidents involving pedestrians struck in fatal accidents are up 57%. And also with fatal accidents where the driver is suspected of alcohol use is up 35% compared to 2023.
And those are off of what number of a basis? Are those small numbers or are those relatively large numbers and they're still up 56 and?
For the fatal accidents where the driver was suspected of alcohol use, there were 23 fatalities. So that being a 35% increase is a pretty big chunk. And I'm a big, I like to promote all the work done with DWIs, especially from highway safety. But I think when we're seeing trends like that, that shows that there's still work that needs to be done if that many people are resulting in a fatal accident from a DWI driver.
Is there any relationship to a failure to yield?
I don't know that particular because the Missouri Coalition, it's SaveMoLives.com, so they're showing all of St. Louis County, not just our department, so I can't really compare those. But we're seeing the same trends that all of St. Louis County is when it comes to those type of things. And this is our crime heat map, just showing you where all of those crimes are occurring. It's similar to our failure to yield map where you're seeing heavy red spots in Jennings and North County and then South County as well. For calls for service, we have every month here instead of the typical moving average. The bold numbers are the highest for each precinct. It's not surprising that we're having all of those warmer months as the highest ones for directed calls for service. And then similarly, our self-initiated calls are also in the colder months, except for Wildwood for some reason just really went wild in May.
I see what you did there. Very nice.
Got it. Our top calls for December, the same for most months, sick case for directed, extra patrol for self-initiated. And then our traffic stop data, we have it by December and for the entire year. I believe the committee is meeting shortly, soon. I don't know when. I'm not gonna say that. But so far, there haven't been any outliers for either December or for the year. Any questions for me?
One more.
Please.
So back to the question of why. Are the trends that we're seeing across all three of the crimes stuff we're seeing across the country, across Missouri, or is it unique just to St. Louis County?
I think it's probably nationwide. I can't speak on that for sure. But I think 2023 was a higher than normal year. So it's going to show as a bubble when we look at all these years across the way. But I think we're coming down to a downtrend now.
I think if you listen to the media, you'll see that most of this is pretty much nationwide. And we as individual departments we're benefiting from that because ours are lower also. But if you look at the media and news reports, you will see that it probably is nationwide. Violent crimes are down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. Appreciate it. She'll straighten it out.
Thanks, Ally.
Thank you.
Director Wagner, you're up, man.
Good morning.
All right. So I'm just going to kind of recap 2024 and kind of what we're looking forward to in 2025. So with our staffing, so starting with commission staff, for 2024, we had a vacancy rate of 15.1. That was compared to the 13.3 from 2023. So definitely more vacant positions that did sit open. We hired only 20 people in 2024 compared to 31 the year before. So clearly our opportunity this last year was definitely the people that we were bringing on board, not bringing in enough. Similarly, I put the minority numbers on there as well, 20%, and this is overall for commission staff, 20% minority hires last year compared to 29% the year before. And then with professional staff, very similar in our numbers, so 14.9% vacancy rate compared to only 11.2 from the year before. We hired 55 compared to 64 in 2023. And our minority numbers weren't as far off, but 18% compared to 21%. So again, our vacancy rates are still right around that national average, but definitely trending higher this last year than compared to the previous years. So definitely something that we're focusing on moving forward.
Do we include female in the minority?
We do. And I'm also going to touch on the 30 by 30 initiative as well. Did you have a question?
I did, but I forgot it.
Oh, no, okay.
I get
If you
it.
think of it, just interrupt me. So just to kind of give an idea of what we were looking at as far as number of applications. So just for commission staff, we had 390 applications last year compared to 270 the year before. So definitely an increase in those applications, but 71% of them last year were either not qualified or they withdrew. And that's a huge percentage. So again, I feel like I'm a broken record because I'm always saying we're really focusing on targeting the right people and trying to get to our audience, which I think we're doing a much better job of, but we still have some ways to go on that. But that's exactly where that is obvious.
That was my question in terms of the qualifications. And
Yes.
what are the areas that disqualify some of the applicants?
It varies. Sometimes it's drug use, felony background, but it could also be the physical fitness tests and the assessments that they're taking. So it just really varies. We're not seeing a trend in one specific area that's really rising above another. But it's still there. We're still losing them throughout the process. I think probably the first half of last year, it was also time. For instance, our background investigations were taking longer. And so we're losing people in that process. If they're in the process at other departments and they get an offer there first, they're going to go there. And so that was something we really focused on, which I'll kind of touch on too, but really looking at our processes, how can we be more efficient? And so I think as the rest of the year went on, we did get better with that. And for instance, we had 25 people that joined the academy for January. That's a huge spike for us. So it just shows we're getting those efficiencies under. We still have a little ways to go, but definitely something that we're focusing on. So very similar with professional staff. The only one, the outlier is really dispatch. They had a little bit less as far as applications go. But you'll see with our commission staff, our dispatch and security all have that really high percentage for not qualified or withdrew in the process. So again, just an overall focus for every position that we're focusing on.
Is that low 70s consistent with what we've had in years past?
I would have to pull those numbers. I'm not positive. I'll look at that though and see what we can compare and see if we're trending higher. I think that'll give us a really good picture as well. So the biggest win for us last year was definitely our retention. So as you can see on here, so what I did was I did how many resignations and retirements we had in 2024 compared to 2023. So like for commission staff, resignations 10 versus 50, huge difference. Retirements, we were actually even though the whole year it felt like we were really high on retirements, we actually ended up even. And then those that left for other departments for our commission staff, we lost 5 last year to other departments, 19 the year before. So I feel like those are huge wins for us to really kind of look at, okay, what were we doing differently to encourage people to stay, to show them that, this is the place to be. Same with professional staff. We, only lost 43 compared to 48 for resignations and 3 versus 10 for retirements. I will say as we're starting this year, it's not looking as promising because we've seen several retirements come through like we expected. But, again, last year it felt really high on retirements and we ended up even. So kind of putting that in perspective.
Do you have a sense of the number of experienced officers that we hired?
Yes, I just emailed that to Chief yesterday and I'm trying to think of what
It was
that.
7.
7? I was going to say 7 or 8.
7?
Yes. And really, we hired 20 commissioned officers in 2024. We've already started with 25. Now we've lost 2, which is expected to lose a couple kind of at the beginning of the academy, but we've already beat our 2024 numbers. So just trying to keep up that momentum and what's working, and trying to capitalize on that. So.
Well, you know the math too, based on that number. If you just look at commission, there's what, 40 plus 14, so 54 people otherwise saved. Then in a traditional year, we would have been down another 54 people in commission.
Correct. Yeah, and of course, our goal is obviously to, not be losing more than we're hiring. So, I think we're starting to close that gap and really trying to get there, and that's our ultimate goal. Make sure that matches up a little bit better. So just to kind of review some of the things, I already touched on a couple, but some of the things that we really focused on last year, we were looking into our processes, really doing a deep dive. Lieutenant Bland and Sergeant Minor did a great job of this, and really looking at what is working, what's not, what can we try. There were several things as far as like processes go that we were like, well, let's just try it. Let's see what happens. Does it make a difference? Sometimes it didn't. Sometimes we were like, ooh, what were we thinking? But you don't know until you try. So with our background investigations, our hiring process, so the different steps that they go through, kind of switching those around, what makes more sense, as well as like our testing and our evaluations that we're doing. So these are still a work in progress, but I will say that we've made some great progress towards where we need to be on these, and we continue to do that this year. And then, as I've talked about as well in past meetings, our Leadership Development Institute, we fully launched that. We have 145 approved applications for that. So they will all be, it's actually starting in about, I think it's 2 weeks now, is the first training. So the kind of the kickoff for all of that. So really excited about that. We have all ranks that are represented, and that's from commission and professional staff. And this first session is 6 months. So we'll be doing another session come June for that as well. So excited to kind of share, the successes and the lessons learned from this first session. We also conducted our first day survey, as you guys know. Those different results, we weren't able to just kind of check everything off and say, okay, we're done. They all were then incorporated into some of our different strategic plan committees. So that those are all things that are being worked on as we speak, if not already addressed. My plan and my hope is to conduct one. I'm thinking probably third quarter, potentially second quarter, but I'm thinking third might be a little bit better timing for us to kind of give just a little bit more time to make some of that progress in those strategic plans. And then we did launch and currently are for our multifaceted marketing campaign. So that's going well. We finally got what we needed from IT, so thank you for assistance in that. And so now we're able to really start tracking. Our landing page is going live. It'll be either end of this week or early next week. And so I'm really excited to be able to show that off. They're just making final like little tweaks on it to make sure it's perfect. It runs through May. And so we'll kind of start getting some really good results now that they can track, number of clicks and who's going to what pages and things like that. So next board meeting, I should have some results to share with you. And then lastly, I have the 30 by 30 initiative numbers. And it's a little bit small, so I apologize. But overall,
I'm sorry, can you tell our new commissioner what our 30 by 30
of course.
is?
Yeah, I guess that probably doesn't make a lot of sense. So the 30 by 30 initiative is to get to 30% female in our commission staff by the year 2030. So kind of a focus that we have, and it can be all ranks, doesn't have to just be officer recruits. And for 2024, we ended up at 15.7%. We were at 15.3 the year before. So very small movement on that percentage, but we are headed in the right direction. And as you can see, our recruit numbers were really good, but we're looking at only 7 total. So, those are gonna make a bigger impact whenever you're talking about the smaller numbers. But as you can see, our higher ranks are also now represented with females as well. So we're definitely moving in the right direction. It's still definitely a focus for us going into 2025.
It sounded like a long way off at first. Now it's not.
Yes,
It's only
correct.
5
I know,
years.
I'm like 2030, wow, like
Wow.
right around the corner. So,
All right.
yeah, absolutely. All right, that is all I have. Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Commissioner Hassler, you asked some of the reasons for disqualification. I would bet you that a lot of the reasons that we don't have best qualified is that we just have no follow-up from a lot of people that put in applications. They'll put in an application, they're required to come back with some more information, and we never hear from them again. So that happens quite a bit.
Thanks.
The two that we lost right off the bat in the academy, one of the things that we do with that is that we try to offer them another position within the police department. That way it doesn't look like we just threw money away trying to hire them. And I think one of the two did put in for another position with the police department, so he's in the background for that, so. Anyway, next up, as I mentioned earlier, Deputy Chief has been doing one heck of a job working with this department and his leadership with his lieutenant colonels. Keeps me advised on everything that's going on in there, sometimes more than I really want to hear about. I hear it anyway. And just a few words about the lieutenant colonels on this department. They work their butts off doing what they need to do on this department. I'm proud of everything that they do. I hear about it, again, sometimes more than what I want to hear about, but I do hear about it. They're going to give you a recap of what they've done in 2024 for the next few minutes. Colonel, Chief, Colonel, vote.
I think they have a PowerPoint, but I won't be needing that because I'm a caveman and I got my notes. Good morning, Happy New Year. It is a division update for the chief's office. However, I got to say this at command staff. Thank you guys for the work that you do. 2024 was a successful year in spite of our staffing issues. We have executive command staff meetings every week, and we don't even talk about our lack of staffing anymore. It's just, how do we get this done? So that doesn't mean that we're going to stop our recruitment and retention efforts, but the department has just moved forward. And as Coach Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers always say, the standard is the standard, and the standard around here is excellence.
How have they done every year in the playoffs? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. One and done.
But seriously, we appreciate you guys' efforts and in spite of the staffing issues. I'm gonna touch on a few units within the chief's office, and the first is research and analysis. It's only natural that we start there because that's where everything begins. That is the policies, the procedures, the accreditations, the internal and external communication. It's the why we do what we do, how we do it, how we investigate crimes, how we respond to crimes. It's where all the data is stored. It's the warehouse for the strategic plan. That is a fluid, very fluid, I guess it's our guide. It's kind of like our Bible that Miss Marissa Williams heads up, and she does an outstanding job. She does quarterly updates, video updates to make sure that we're staying in compliance with that. We made a promise. She does those videos and it goes out to the entire police department, and we can't thank you enough for that. And the entire police department had some say-so in that strategic plan. The Public Information Office, led by Sergeant Tracy Panis, TV star. You guys saw her yesterday. I'm impressed with this unit because it's small, but it's mighty. It's 4 people that work in that office, and they help everybody in the region, whether it's the city, whether it's Ferguson, anybody that called that needs something. Tracy and her staff helps everyone. They put together some training for the command staff, coordinated crisis communication, which I think is one of the most important things we need as executive leaders, to be able to get our message out. And thank you guys. And that training is excellent, by the way, and we will do more of that in 2025. The Police Academy docuseries, I enjoy those. Brian does a great job with that. It's very entertaining. It's an insight to, how these recruits, what it's all about being in the police academy. And they do all the critical incidents. The videos are excellent. It's a huge tool in prosecution. They work well with the Crimes Against Persons unit. They do so much with so few people that I think a lot of times we take them for granted. So Tracy, your crew does a great job.
Chief, can I ask you to have them stand
Sure.
for Commissioner Thompson's benefit?
Here, Brian.
Let's go back to analytics after that too.
Well, that was gonna be my next question. Spanish is the only one I recognize.
But she's a TV star. Right.
We're gonna make some of these captains TV stars. We're gonna start doing more of that.
How about analytics?
Yeah, the analytics, the warehouse, the analysis, the research.
Captain Ossendorf and Hercourt. Now, little operations, the great Captain Peter Morrow. Is he here?
There he is.
Supposed to come stand up front,
He may need to.
right up here, right in front of the chairman.
Seriously, I would say, in this new role for 7 months, so I'm not new. But I've been most impressed by those detectives in that criminal intelligence unit than I have of any other operations unit. If you see a high-profile investigation on the news, I assure you his team took part in that. Whether it's over in Illinois or St. Louis City, these high-profile investigations require a lot of technology, how you track these violent offenders. These guys track them, they effect arrest, they write excellent police reports. The things they do for the police department, that some things the chief can't even tell you because that's his group that works directly for him, and they handle a lot of high-profile cases. They hate being seen. They move in silence. They do an excellent job. And Pete knows because I tell him on a regular basis how much we appreciate those guys. They do a great job back there. So thank you, Pete, and thank you for your criminal investigation team. Also within the intelligence unit or bureau is the RIC, Regional Information and Intelligence Center. I would say that has probably been the most important technology unit that this department has ever had. They have access to over 1,600 cameras, 1,000 license plate readers. The officers in North County utilize that RIC like no other, looking for stolen autos, carjacked vehicles, violent offenders. DCI, the Street Enforcement Team, utilized that RIC a lot too. The goal for 2025 is to get these officers in the south areas in West County to utilize those cameras as well so we can get more of these violent offenders off the street. But that RIC is new. We're gonna have a new building here in a couple of years, I guess, and they deserve it. And a lot of these investigations start yesterday. The critical incident we had, Lieutenant Warner, who's in charge of the RIC, came down to the chief's office and briefed me and the chief on what had happened in the city of Jennings during the critical incident before we responded to the scene. So it is invaluable, and we will continue to add cameras and add staffing to that area. Fiscal services. I never thought I'd be up here talking about fiscal services because, Terry Moran, especially in the last year, I'm learning a lot in this new job about budgets and stuff like that. And Terry is a genius in this area. New CBA, salaries, wages. It's archaic. They do everything manually. Typing in all of this stuff that Sergeant Graff is going to help them step into the 21st century here to get them the assistance that they need. Another one of those groups that's small but mighty. 4 ladies back there making sure all the bills are paid, that 1,100 employees are paid, that the checks are right, correcting errors that supervisors make on payroll. We cannot thank you guys enough. And Chairman Banks is going to make sure that I take you guys to lunch on his dime. There will be
Stand up,
drinks
Terry. You and your
included.
group, stand up. Sarah, Jimmy, stand.
Stand up, yeah.
Thank you. And the goal for 2025 is to kind of modernize that unit by getting some software to help them input this data. I have to speak about, and I didn't have you on my notes, Matt. Captain Matt Pleviak and the Bureau of Professional Standards. That office ensures that that our conduct and discipline manual is being adhered to. That officers, their job is to protect the organization. And I tell you what, I worked in that office for a short period of time as a sergeant, but I am most impressed now. It's not the discipline, but it is the recommendations they make for training, where they have to identify, is this a training issue or is this a discipline issue? sometimes it's both. But these guys recognize what type of training may be beneficial and recommend that the officers attend that training. And that is taking that thing to the next level, Matt and Matt. And we appreciate that and thank you. You guys got one of the toughest jobs on the department. So we appreciate you. Please stand up, Captain. You too, Lieutenant. Chief, I'm sorry. I know I'm going over my time, so I'm gonna wrap it up.
Yes, you are.
Last but not least,
Yes, you are.
Amy and Diana, the conductors. They keep the train on the track.
It's difficult.
They also serve as my mental health counselors because I do need time to vent.
That's really
They
tough.
allow that. And seriously, thank you ladies for doing everything that you do to take care of me, the chief, and the entire police department, as well as the Board of Police Commissioners. So we can't thank you guys enough for what you do as well. The goal of the Board of Police Commissioners for the chief's office as well as the police department is to modernize the police department. We're still doing some things that are old school. We're gonna try to leverage technology. Lieutenant Colonel Law talked a little bit about the drone program. We're gonna try to make the job easier for the employees, whether that's some artificial intelligence. I'm sure Colonel Mann will probably talk about that because he talks about that all the time. But also, our efforts would be to support the men and women in the Division of Patrol because that is our identity, that is the engine. So a lot of our efforts will be geared around the Division of Patrol in the upcoming year, and also just identifying, pinpointing training for each group. So the officers, the sergeants, the captains, like we talked about this crisis communication for commanders, because it's important. So I know it's a general goal, but it's really to modernize, to continue with best practices, but to make sure that we stay the elite police department in the region and one of the best in the country. Any questions?
That's Amy. Where's Diana?
She's probably,
He's working.
She's here.
Oh, okay.
she's probably, she's holding the report somewhere.
I think
Any other questions?
Yes, 1,000, but not right now.
I want to thank you for your report and for acknowledging everyone who supports the effort. We come every month and see the sea of faces, and some of them we recognize and some I don't. But to put names with faces is really important, and to connect them with the work that they are doing. So thank you for that, and I want to thank all of you also.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Colonel Mann.
Right. Thank you, Deputy Chief.
Chief, I might add, for those of us that saw that video yesterday up north, we'll modernize as a department to be better, but it amazes me that when a young man is in the middle of the road with a clip and he's firing rounds off, our guys go to the fight. That just continually overwhelms me to watch how fast they get on scene, they jump out of their cars and they engage. So nothing will ever beat good police work, and that was an example of it.
How do we wake up?
Vera.
Yeah. Wake up. Oh. Sorry.
She said, leave her alone. She knows her job.
Good morning.
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 You won't be like the deputy and be quite as long, right?
Well, he put me on a shot clock and he violated it, so I'm gonna have to talk about. You have a lot of information to get through, so just stop me if you have any.
Oh, no.
Okay, the Division of Operational Support. We'll start off with the Police Academy.
This is Lieutenant Colonel Mann.
For a second. For our new board member, could you introduce yourself?
Right.
What happens within your divisions, so that you'll be familiar with it?
Sure. Lieutenant Colonel Norman Mann, the Division of Operational Support is pretty much what the title says. We support the operation of the department. A lot of professional staff, employees, kind of behind the scenes, but they do an outstanding job, so we really appreciate them. And like, I'll run through each unit in my division and kind of give you some updates and some achievements and goals, so.
Thank you.
Okay? So we'll start off with the County and Municipal Police Academy. Class 211 began a day late. We had a school closing because of the snowstorm, so we actually began on January the 7th. We started with 48 county, municipal, and open enrollment recruits. Just an updated number, we lost 9 recruits so far, 2 being county recruits, as previously mentioned. Also, we hope to begin our pistol transition training in February of this year. That's dependent on the guns and the holsters arriving from the manufacturer, so we should be on track for that. Discussion and planning is still ongoing for a regional police academy. We have a highly anticipated meeting this afternoon with the county council, so we'll see how that goes. Records, Bureau of Central Police Records. Actually, a contract with Identigo, which is a third-party electronic fingerprint system, will expire. The contract will end tomorrow, and this will allow us to reallocate a lot of our resources and staffing to address more pressing sunshine requests and some other administrative tasks. We were able to fulfill 17,892 of the 18,128 total sunshine requests for 2024. And we hope to increase those fulfilled requests with the reallocation of our staff. We are working to revamp and streamline our private security function in 2025 and hopefully get it more in line with the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department, which we collaborate with. And also, the appeals and licensing process. We want to get that streamlined and get that clarified and get cleaned up a little bit. So we will be working on that. And we're looking to provide more oversight into private security as well and the sex offender compliance processes. There was an increase of 37 more offenders in 2024 compared to 2023. We have 1 detective and 1 professional staff employee dedicated to the tracking of these offenders. And so out of the 38 non-compliant offenders, 28 have active warrants or warrants out for them, and we are working to establish residency for the other 10. Bureau of Communications. So our Dispatch Academy Class 23 began on December 4th and will graduate this Friday. All are welcome to attend the graduation, and we hopefully will have 5 new dispatchers at that graduation. The next class is anticipated to start in March, and we are hopeful to fill that class to capacity in order to get closer to our authorized staffing. No pressure, Julie. We have a plan to transfer the Jennings precinct to the North County Precinct Radio. This is because of the onboarding of the Ferguson Police Department, which I believe that contract is on the agenda today. And Ferguson will join the Muni North Radio vacated by the city of Jennings precinct. In 2024, the Bureau of Communications answered 590,193 calls for service, which is approximately 11% less than 2023. The average answer time for 911 calls decreased by 3.6 seconds from 10.8 to 7.2 in 2024. The average answer time for non-emergency line decreased by 8.9 seconds. The average answer time for the 7-digit emergency line, which was used by police officers and fire departments and so forth, that decreased by 7.4 seconds over 2023, 7.3 seconds going from 17.8 from 2023, to 10.4 in 2024. The auto attendant is actually diverting 21% of our non-emergency calls, so we hope to see an increase of that as well. Our ultimate goal in communications is to open up a 8th radio console. This will hopefully mitigate the increased workload by adding the city of Ferguson and other contracts potentially in the new year. But that would take additional authorized staffing to the Bureau of Communications. We also set a goal to increase our behavioral health referrals from communications to the Community Behavioral Health Liaison, which is working out in the Bureau of Communications. We just have some work to do. We transferred 121 calls in 2024, with 101 of those calls being assigned to the St. Louis County Police Department. So we are planning some training sessions for our dispatchers to make them a little bit more comfortable with transferring these calls, so that we're working with Sergeant Begley to get that accomplished. The IT unit. So we are meeting with and discussing the upcoming changes from county IT, which will affect our police department. There are some operational issues for our development and support teams. So we ask for everyone's patience while we work through these changes. Care, we performed care demonstrations for several municipal departments in 2024, and we anticipate several of those departments onboarded in care this year.
Can you tell the new commissioner what CARE is?
Okay, CARE is our computer-aided report entry. It's basically our record management system where all the police reports are held, and we do a lot of crime data and sharing it with our CARE program. So it's a regional asset as far as tracking crime and documenting crime, but our police officers use it to enter their police reports.
Thank you.
So we did create an informational presentation to distribute to interested agencies in CARE. That packet or that presentation should have been included in your packets, but if you have any questions about that, please let me know. The statewide CIT program is in internal testing phase, and we are still working on electronic evidence disposition forms, which will be going live department-wide soon. This should help us destroy a lot of unneeded evidence, which is greatly needed for storage space and property control. We Care, we're working on to develop that a little bit more. That's a public portal to report minor crimes, so we hope to have that up and running by the second quarter of this year. And we were approved for a $300,000 federal grant to add AI technology to CARE. Deputy Chief loves to hear that. This will provide assistance in reporting for NIBRs and MIBRs. That's the incident reporting system to the national level and the state level. And it will also help police officers with their report writing. And we anticipate receiving the equipment sometime in the fall. And we're also looking for additional resources to extend AI technology for some other cool ideas that we have using that technology. Okay. Emergency communication network. So we're in negotiation with Motorola to upgrade our Slater radio system. This is going to be a kind of a heavy lift because there are several other counties involved. So we have a lot of work to do to get to a satisfactory contract for all those parties involved. And we also discussed a few maintenance issues with County Public Works. So hopefully we'll be able to add additional resources to address those issues moving forward. Emergency management. So we're working closely with County Public Works again and the state of Missouri on the buyouts and the demolition of several flood damaged homes in Lemay. This has kind of been an ongoing project that Director Ryan has been working on. So the projected completion date of that is October 2026. So that's kind of been the long outstanding project.
You had Director Ryan stand up, so you'll know who we're talking about.
We're gonna do that then. Stand up.
Wake up, stand up. That was
short.
Oh. Ooh.
So emergency management also has several school district tabletop and Code 1000 exercises planned for the new year. Code 1000 is a mutual aid where multiple departments get together for mass incident, calls for police, things like that. And also we're gonna be working on our emergency operation plan in this year. Vehicle and supply. Vehicle and supply unit continues to monitor the work, monitor and work towards through the delays in the county procurement process as a result of the standstill with the minority and women business enterprise solicitation contract. So we're working through those delays, and hopefully we'll have that alleviated soon. And we're also working through changes in the interior design of the patrol vehicle, the new patrol vehicles. There's some issues with assessing the vehicle controls. Some of the controls are placed lower on the dash than the previous cars. So it's having an effect on our console placement. So we're working on a fix for that. So officers can expect a modification for that console to be rolled out sometime later this year. In closing, I'd just like to say, this was a busy 2024, but we look forward to an innovative path forward for our department and the Division of Operational Support. I'd like to thank the men and women of the division, especially our leaders. Deputy Director Vern Claiborne is here, so she's kind of the backbone of communications.
Stand up, Vern.
And all the projects we got going on. But Captain Tucker's here at the Academy. He does an outstanding job with that. So some of my other directors are not here. Lieutenant Fumagalli was here. I'm not sure if he's still. So they do an outstanding job. So I just appreciate their dedication to the citizens and the co-workers of St. Louis County.
I had one question for you. You mentioned the regional academy and the meeting going on later on today with the council. Can you just give us kind of a high-level strategy as we enter that meeting this afternoon?
Sure, I don't want to speak for the chief, but I believe this meeting was called for the council just to give you an information of the progress and the plans for the Regional Police Academy. This has been an ongoing project for several years. I joined the discussion back in July when I was promoted, so Lieutenant Colonel Jerry Lohr has been on the project longer than I have. But this is kind of just to give, I guess, a report of how we got to this point, and also to explain how our current academy runs. So, and then we'll address or answer any questions they may have for us.
I had a couple questions. In the beginning of your presentation, you spoke about this pistol transitioning. What are we transitioning? Are these new weapons or?
Yes, sir. We are transitioning to a new pistol. It's the Spring-Fed Echelon, and it's going to have a red dot laser system attached to it. So there's going to be a 3-day transition training for all commissioned and security officers.
Okay. When you're transitioning from?
The 6 hour.
Oh, the SIG?
Yes, sir.
Right.
And Colonel, how long have we had those 15 years now?
Has it been that long? 18 years?
18 years.
Transition. So we're going from a 40 caliber to a 9mm pistol. So.
I'll talk to someone later on about why we made that transition. I don't want to get into details right now.
Sure, absolutely.
If I need to get rid of my SIG, I like to find out. The maintenance, no, the modification to the vehicles. When the vehicles were ordered originally, was this a surprise to us that these were going to be positioned lower? And will those modifications be handled in-house, or are you sending them back out to have them modified?
So I guess, each model year comes with new modifications as far as, the Ford Explorers. So with this, it's basically the climate control settings. They're lower on the dash. So when we place the console in the vehicles like we normally do, it's hard to reach around the console to get to the climate control settings. So to fix that, we're researching different consoles. We may have to go to more of a flatter console that we install in our Tahoes in order to make sure that those settings are accessible. So last thing we want is officers looking down. Trying
Oh,
to
absolutely,
run
absolutely.
around, so. These come with the new models that are before that were rolled out.
The design of the vehicles will be different also.
Yes, the new decals are starting to roll out. You may see those coming around, patrolling St. Louis County in our contract. So we're excited about that, which has our branding colors. We're transitioning from the red and white and gold to the blue and gold. So, any other questions?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's interesting to me how you all have assumed these positions over the last several months, and I don't see a hiccup at all. The transition always seems to be seamless. I find that amazing.
It's called succession planning, sir. When you've been around all the different positions that they've been in, they know what to take up when they get in the positions that they deal with now.
It is. It's very impressive, though, Chief.
Who's up next?
Okay, sure.
Commissioner Wild read that just like you wrote it, Chief.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Do you know where am I before or after? I don't know. I don't know how they stacked them. Anybody? Brian? I can try to find it. Nope. Let's go backwards. I did. Oh, okay. Well, I guess we don't have slides then. All right. Well, we'll do traffic stop data. No, so let me begin by introducing myself. I met the new commissioner in the hallway, but for those of you that don't know me, my name is Jerry Lohr. I'm the division commander for the Division of Criminal Investigation. So the Division of Criminal Investigation is obviously one of the 4 divisions, 5 if you count personnel, within the department for the new commissioner. But essentially, my division is comprised of 3 main kind of components. One being the crime lab, The second being the crimes against persons, property, and identification. And the third being the Bureau of Drug Enforcement. So to kind of give you a sense of what that is, I'm authorized roughly about 200 people. That's a combination of commissioned and civilian personnel. I was going to run through some of the homicide numbers. I had some statistics on here for you to kind of show, but I'll just talk about them kind of. We'll kind of do this and then I'll close it because obviously I don't want to go too long. But comparatively from 2023, we had 58 homicides. 2024, we had 64. The biggest change there, and I know you guys see these numbers every month, so it's nothing new. I know Allie talks about these on a regular basis, and we kind of highlight this. Obviously, it's because kind of what the public focuses on. But for 2024, we had 31 unincorporated homicides. You compare that to 2023, which was 30. So really, in the unincorporated areas, we were essentially even. The biggest uptick, the 58 to 64, the biggest uptick comes in our municipal homicides. So those are homicides that we basically investigate for other municipalities. So to kind of give you a sense of how this works, because of the way the charter is constructed, if a municipal entity has a homicide and they ask us to investigate it, we will do that. So to kind of give you the difference there, we did 16 of them in 23 and we did 22 municipal cases in 2024. And that really accounts for the difference from the 58 to the 64 is that. And our contracts, so our contract municipalities, again, the numbers are 12 in 23 and 11 in 24. And I can break that down for you as far as like where those are occurring, in which precincts, in which contracts. Oh, now we're gonna put them in? Better late than never, huh? Well, it's easier because I can make up stuff as I go. Now if it's on the screen, I can't make it up. Oh, there it is. Thank you, Vera.
Apologies.
No worries. All right, so that just to kind of, that's kind of what I was reviewing there, the numbers there. And so you can see, and again, that tends to draw a lot of attention. So obviously our detectives, our robbery, homicide, basically our homicide detectives get quite a bit of the attention in my division because this is what the public kind of focuses on. Quite frankly, we do a phenomenal job. I'll highlight kind of, you can see it says overall CR, which is clearance rate. For our county and contracts in 2023, we're at 100% clearance rate. And then in 2024, we're at 90% clearance rate. And that's phenomenal. Quite frankly, that's significantly higher than the national average. And so that is something that we are very, very proud of. It's the fact that we do clear our homicides. To kind of complement that, this is, and just a quick breakdown, and again, I don't really want to go through numbers. We could go through numbers because we do tend to focus on a lot of statistics. But you can see there's the robbery homicide numbers. Then you have the other divisions, investigative units kind of tied into this. Child abuse, domestic violence, special investigations. Those are your crimes against persons, kind of float down below that, and then you go into your crimes against property, burglary, general assignment, auto crime, bomb and arson. Of note, that bomb and arson group is a combined unit. So that is a joint venture that we have with St. Louis City. So it's an example of our collaboration that we have with our partners. Similar to Colonel Law and Metro Air is also a combined unit. That's the city and county partnering together to kind of bring those resources. It's essentially capitalizing on economies of scale. So when it comes to equipment and training and that things, it's a force multiplier for us. The detectives that work in these other kind of units, the child abuse, domestic violence, special investigations, burglary, general assignment, auto crime, quite frankly, their work is probably not as highlighted, but quite frankly, they do a ton of these kind of investigations. So the volume of work that they produce is actually quite staggering, and they do it with less and less manpower. And I don't want to beat up the staffing issue that we have, but staffing is a problem. It does touch every one of my units. And so while I'm authorized a certain number of people, we're doing more work today with less people. And these detectives do a phenomenal job. It's not on this slide, but I wanted to talk about the ID. We have crime scene unit. They did about 2,799. So they did about 2,800 scenes where they go out and they take evidence. So they process these scenes in 24. Or if we have a fugitive group, they basically travel. So there are, I think I have 4 or 5 fugitive detectives, 4. 4 fugitive detectives. I'm authorized 5, so I'm short one there. But they basically go and they pick up prisoners. So that's across the country. So they traveled, we had 522 fugitive trips last year, where they travel and basically they pick up felons and people that have warrants and they bring them back here to be tried. We have a conveyance unit, and these are officers that go around and pick up prisoners from other agencies. And of those 4 conveyance officers, we did 3,000 pickups. So they basically went and picked up 3,000 prisoners from other agencies and brought them here. Conveyance is local, fugitive is more regional, kind of national. Our word processing unit, so we have 4 civilians upstairs that do the reporting. So officers are able to call in and they do their care reports. You heard Colonel Mann talk about care earlier. We have a word processing unit. Essentially, they're our report writers. So they help the detectives write their own reports, but then the word processing go through, and these are lengthy reports. These are 90, 100, 200-page reports, and they go through and they help to make sure that the reports are accurate, that the numbers are counted correctly for statistical reporting. They approved 587 reports. They reviewed over 10,000, roughly 10,500 reports last year. And they help send out our teletypes, which is just putting people in the system as either wanted or evidence that's recovered, that kind of thing. And we don't typically talk about those kind of peripheral units. They're not even on this slide. But ID, fugitive conveyance, and the word processing groups really kind of help keep things rolling upstairs. And they're sometimes forgotten about. You're gonna hear me talk about it at the end, but I'll go ahead and kind of mention it. The ID unit here, we are in the process of transitioning our crime scene investigators from commission to civilian. So right now as of yesterday, we have a blended group. So we hired 2 new crime scene investigators yesterday, Miss Jordan Holthouse and Miss Albert. So they're new members of our team. And I think we have 4 more. Thank you, Julie. We have 4 more that we're going to be hiring here at the end of the month. So that would bring us up to 6 civilian crime scene investigators, which is a big change for us. And so we're kind of working through that. Lieutenant Parks has done a great job kind of putting that program together along with his sergeants. If we go to the crime lab, I can't speak highly enough about what Director Lisa Campbell does. She is the director of the crime lab. And again, the number that really kind of should jump out at you up there is the number of completed reports. You can see 10,425 completed reports. That the incoming requests were 10,530, which means that essentially every piece of evidence that's coming in is getting processed, which is phenomenal. So not only does our crime lab support our police department, but they also support other municipal agencies within the region. So if other agencies have evidence that need to be processed, our crime lab is doing that. So Lisa Campbell does a phenomenal job of ensuring that that evidence is being processed. That obviously helps all of our detectives in terms of putting these cases together, being able to identify suspects through DNA, obviously utilizing, if you watch NCIS or any kind of TV, people think that you can get DNA hits on everything. It's not really true, but you can actually get DNA on more things than you think. But Lisa and her group upstairs does a phenomenal job. So very, very specialized. The Bureau of Drug Enforcement, just some numbers up here to kind of look at. The number of arrests, obviously they focus more on kind of the disrupting and dismantling criminal organizations. Obviously, most either revolve around narcotics or violent crime. Typically, those things tend to go together. The one thing that when the slide was put together, I didn't understand what the FDA seizure was. I was trying to figure out why. I didn't realize we had a partnership with the Federal Drug. I was like Federal Bureau of Drug. I didn't know who FDA was. Essentially, it is what you think it is, FDA, Federal Drug Administration. And that seizure of $2 million was from a doctor writing bad prescriptions. So when they made that arrest, they seized his assets. I thought maybe we seized a bunch of bad lettuce or oranges or some kind of produce that was coming into the country, but it's actually a doctor that was writing bad prescriptions. Something to note here, and I can't say this enough, but our partnerships with our federal agencies, obviously the strike force and Colonel Law was kind of instrumental. Captain Tim Ware has been a part of that. Captain John Wheeler kind of runs it now. have really built this into what it is. So it's a partnership with the U.S. Attorney's Office. It's run by the U.S. Attorney. The strike force is run by the U.S. Attorney's Office. But that brings us together. That gives us this kind of regional collaboration piece. So it allows us, again, to be a force multiplier with all of our federal agencies. It allows us to prosecute these more violent felons at different, gives us the ability to kind of touch them in a federal way as opposed to a state level. And it does allow us to expand our reach. Some of our investigations go so far as to Mexico, go to, basically all ends of the US, to California. Our detectives are involved in these kind of lengthy cases, long-term lengthy cases, which have tentacles that go all across the nation. But our partnership with our federal agencies is really what makes this successful. So I cannot say enough to talk about how much I appreciate that relationship with the FBI, the ATF, the DEA, and kind of Homeland Security, all of these groups, the National Guard, all of these groups that are a part of that strike force. And to kind of wrap it up, some of the highlights for 2024, you see the first one on there, the FIT, the Force Investigative Team. That's something that we had been doing in practice, but we formalized it this year, which is just basically a group of detectives that handle critical incidents. So unfortunately, yesterday we had a critical incident, and that's essentially 4 detectives that are in charge of any of these, what we would call critical officer-involved shooting type critical high liability critical incidents. That group, then, they have specialty training, and we essentially assign that case to one of those 4 detectives. So they are involved in any kind of critical incident in that sense. But we have formalized that and then put into place a succession plan to be able to either expand it or to replace those detectives as they go. Detective Persich, Adams, Shoemaker, and Bates, those are the 4 detectives that are currently assigned to that right now, do a phenomenal job. They're very, very good at what they do. And they do protect the department, they protect our officers, and they investigate these cases to the fullest extent. We brought on an intel analyst, Brian Davenport. He's actually retired from St. Louis City, but he is an analyst upstairs. He's done a phenomenal job. He works hand in hand with the homicide detectives to help either A, give them the kind of background information that they need, and to also help tie cases together. So a detective may be working one case that allows that intel analyst to maybe put other cases into it. So not only do we have a suspect here, but can we tie that suspect to other crimes? 2 full-time TFOs, the intermittent employees, so domestic violence and child abuse. Crime scene, excuse me. You heard me mention that. I kind of already highlighted that, but we're in the process of transitioning from commissioned crime scene detectives to civilian. So we have 2 hired and we have 4 more coming. So that is a big change that we're going to see in 2025. And obviously the last one, the new precinct property control building. Obviously, I think I'd heard that our project manager resigned effective Monday. So hopefully that project will continue. I'm sure it will. But that'll be a big change to the property control room. We've run out of space essentially for property control. So with the addition of the new precinct, obviously I know Colonel Schneider's excited about that. The folks in the 2nd Precinct are excited about that. But the Division of Criminal Investigation is excited about that as well. Some of the things that we're looking to do in 2025, basically it says analyze restructuring and possible changes in case management. Those 2 kind of tied together, which is essentially analyzing workload. So how much workload do we have, and are we dividing that appropriately to our detectives so we're not burning people out? And then also, how do we then integrate with the Division of Patrol? So how do we make that relationship better with our precinct detectives? So as far as kind of how that works, how cases are assigned, are there things that we're handling in the Division of Criminal Investigation that maybe then we could offload or ask for assistance from the Division of Patrol to do? And obviously, Division of Patrol is very, very busy, so I'm not trying to push more work on them, but it's really about how are we able to effectively investigate these types of crimes or different types of crimes. Technology is always something that we're looking at. How do we utilize technology to make our division, to make the department better, really? The division too, but the department better. And continue to look at ways to supplement manpower. Obviously, the staffing issue is always kind of in the background there. So let me wrap up by 2 things. First, the men and women in the Division of Criminal Investigation do a phenomenal job. They really do. Our detectives work very, very hard. They take it very, very seriously. And they are committed to truly bringing justice to victims of different types of crimes, especially violent crimes. It's also important for me to say, like, how much, to thank all of the men and women in the rest of the other divisions too, because quite frankly, we are unable to do what we do without their support. So whether it's coming from the Division of Patrol, whether it's coming from the Division of Special Operations, executing the search warrants that we write, the officers on the street that develop leads for us, that go, help. They're a force multiplier in the sense that when we're looking for a specific car, we're able to push that information out to the Division of Patrol. And so essentially, this is how it works when we all work together. So it is not truly siloed. And obviously, Colonel Mann and the Division of Operational Support, having come from, I was going to joke, I thought he was going to get up here and say he had to fix all of my mistakes, coming from the Division of Operational Support. But quite frankly, the men and women in the Division of Operational Support do a phenomenal job as well. And obviously, Julie, the HR department does a great job in trying to hire people and keep people here. So quite frankly, it's important for me to highlight and to thank everyone across the department. I would be remiss if I don't thank the Deputy Chief and Chief for their support as well, because they do kind of help guide those conversations. They can keep us on track, keep us on path is to ensuring that we're working on what we need to work on and making sure that we're tying everything together so that we don't have gaps as we kind of each do our own thing, to making sure that those things integrate nicely. And obviously, thank you to the board. Being a part of an apolitical organization, we appreciate that support, advocating for the department when we need to be advocated for, holding us to a standard, holding us accountable, not only, internally, but externally to the public as well. So your support is greatly appreciated. I look forward to a great 2025. I think there are a lot of challenges, but I think the men and women in this department are up to it.
All right, quick questions. Those seizures seem pretty significant. Where does the money go? Who gets to keep the money?
Well, that actually gets divvied up. So almost all of those asset forfeitures are then divided amongst the participating ages. So we're part of HIDA. And that money then is divvied out to the participating agencies. So it's important for us, part of having those relationships is, if you have a detective that is a part of that group, then your agency receives part of that money.
Lieutenant Colonel, can I build on the question? Why don't you give the new commissioner a feel for about how much of the asset forfeiture money we get annually, and then what we tend to do at a high level with that?
So I don't know what percentage it is, Jason.
So of all seizures,
10
out of the St. Louis County, out of the strike force, we get 6%, and then each group is divided up depending on how many people you have in each group. It's split up by percentages that way, but usually 2 to 4 million per year, somewhere in that.
So I want to say it's about 12%, maybe, depending if you were to do the rough math. But that's a better way, explanation of it. 6% off the top, and then based on the number. What's that? Yeah, well, yeah, because we've had good seizures this year.
And what?
And then, so yeah, to the second part of your question, that money is then given to the department, and then we utilize it for different, either equipment, training, kind of upgrades to, like the pistol transition. I believe that the chief authorized, or we asked for approval to use $1.2 million to transition the pistols, but that incorporates the pistol, the red dot sighting system, the holsters, but that's coming out of asset forfeiture. So training and travel, in the past we had a budget where we were allowed to do some training and travel. I believe that has been changed for 2025. So we will be more reliant upon asset money to train and to travel. So certifications for the lab, certifications for detectives, certifications that special operations folks need. Obviously, that's ongoing training that we have to have in order to maintain those certifications. And so we'll use asset money to do some of that. We're going to have to.
And there are ways that we have to use that money depending on how the Department of Justice say that we can spend it. We just can't spend it on anything. I'll give you a perfect example of their restrictions as to how that money is used for police. The two statues outside, the story I've heard, the fireman and the police officer out there, they needed cleaning. We could only clean the policeman based on,
Wow.
based on what the Department of Justice said that we can use that money for. So
Your government at work.
there are strict restrictions on that.
Some of the solutions splashed.
Oh, wow.
Accident.
Connie, is it for you? You done?
Yeah, that's other questions.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, who's up? Let me see if I can, there we go. I'm like the new Vera.
There you go. Good job.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm,
Morning, good
Jason
morning.
Law, and I'm manage the Division of Special Operations, which I'll go through each of the areas that we work with on a daily basis. So we'll start with tactical operations. As you can see, our SWAT teams, basically, our TAC teams, they conducted 190 search warrants this year. They had 100 drone deployments. They dealt with civil unrest 9 times this year, which that entails the Israeli and all that kind of stuff at the courthouse. And they're deployed to about everything. The incident in Washington University was another where we deployed those folks. They did dignitary protection. So when the president comes in, vice president, in that nature. So regional event protection, that's a different category as well. So if we go down to help St. Louis City at Mardi Gras, that's kind of the function of that group. And then training MACTAC for all areas and police agencies. It's basically how you respond to school shootings and things like that. But our SWAT team will basically train the entire St. Louis County, every single agency in St. Louis County on that. Metro Air Support Unit. That's the cooperation between the city of St. Louis, St. Charles County, and St. Louis County. All 3 of them provide pilots and funding to keep the helicopters up. They performed 1,200 hours of flight hours. 300 suspects were apprehended with their assistance, and they recovered $1.7 million in stolen property, usually stolen cars and things like that, which was great this year. It took us 1.5 years to get it in place. We got a parts contract that covers the engine, the frame, and the parts. When I came in, we had 5 helicopters that were within hours of being down, and that's all we have is 5 helicopters. So this allows us to avoid the bidding process, and we're able to get these parts much faster, keeping our helicopters up in the air. Highway safety. You heard a little bit about that with the stats. They performed 7,764 traffic stops. They had 263 DWI arrests with over 10,000 citations issued. So that's a grant from the state of Missouri. And what they do is patrol the highways and work with the state patrol to try to conduct traffic enforcement. And they do an outstanding job.
On that previous one, you didn't avoid the bidding process, you just kind of streamlined it, because the 3-year contract was bid.
Well, yes, that was bid out.
Right.
Yeah. And it has a 3-year extension, so 6 years will be covered by this contract. And then the commercial motor vehicle enforcement, they're also another grant position from the state of Missouri, and they deal with all the large trucks on the roads. They stop them, they'll, give them violations. They also just give them a lot of warnings, but it's anything from brake lines not being properly attached to you name it on a commercial motor vehicle. Police K-9 unit. Calls for service, over 2,000 calls. They initiated 460 assignments. They had 1,600 K-9 deployments, 117 surrenders. So that basically says they bring that dog in, make it start barking, and people get scared and just give up. So, but they also, apprehended 27 people this year. Special Response Unit. This group goes out and works with the marshals, and they had 301 felony arrests. Now, these are extremely violent folks where they've been already federally indicted or state indicted, and they go and hunt them and find them. They'll work up sheets on them. They'll use undercover cars. They'll do everything they can to take them into custody without incident. And they had very few incidents. They were really good at their job. And then the crisis intervention team. This is for folks with mental crisis. We have folks that deal with this, and this helps lower call volume. We're also one of the first, as Colonel Mann touched on, we're the first in the state to put clinicians in dispatch to help alleviate those calls and not send the police, but maybe send folks. You don't need to send a big policeman to a 16-year-old girl that's trying to commit suicide that doesn't have any means of doing it. She needs to talk to somebody that has those professional background to help. In the last year and a half, we've received 1.5 million in grants to expand the CIT. We're trying to turn it into a task force. So getting other agencies involved, so we're not doing all of this for St. Louis County. These first two grants of 1.5 million, we expanded into St. Charles County and St. Louis County. We went from 4 clinicians to 11 clinicians, and then we also hired an additional 2 police officers. I was just informed just a few minutes ago, we applied for another grant to expand it even further. That was a $1.6 million grant. They said that we were awarded, we were approved, but we just don't know the amount yet. What's interesting about grants is they'll respond, say you apply for 600,000, they'll come back and say, okay, we'll give you 400,000, but just tell us what you're gonna spend it on, in a better way. This time they didn't cut it, so I'm hoping we get that 1.6 million. There's several police agencies that want to work with us in this area, and I think it's the way of the future and dealing with folks with mental crisis. And for 25, through the Metro Air Support Unit, we're gonna we're gonna start the autonomous drone program. These drones are really cool. I mean, they're fixed on a building and you can integrate it with your CAD system. So if there's an accident on the highway, the drone will deploy. There's cameras, it'll pipe that video down to the police car, and that police car will be able to say, okay, I only need 1 tow truck, or it's not blocking, please, disregard my assist cars. I can handle it on my own. And it can go to all kinds of things such as, shots fired calls and things like that. It's a force multiplier. It gets to the scene quicker. It'll lower our response times, and it's the way of the future. And the next steps, it's pretty in depth what you have to do to fly these drones called non-line of sight. So line of sight, it's not that hard to get that, but out of line of sight, you got to go through the FAA process, which we'll do in the future. Hopefully within the next 12 months, we can get this going. We're looking at different funding sources. Usually those funding sources come from 3 means: asset forfeiture, our budget, or the St. Louis Police Foundation. And we're going to explore all those opportunities here and over the next 12 months. We have a few companies that we're going to do some demonstrations to see which one fits the needs of St. Louis County. And all of my folks and all these different divisions do an outstanding job. And, in 2024, the Division of Special Operations helped the Division of Patrol a lot with beat staffing. So they were doing a lot of double duties. They were answering calls and doing the things that they are assigned to do. So I'm proud of every one of those folks in my division, and they just work so hard. And that kind of concludes. Any questions?
No. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Colonel Snyder. Yeah.
Sorry, Commissioner Thompson. I am Captain.
No, you're Lieutenant Colonel.
You're about to be captain, you better be careful.
I'm Lieutenant Colonel. James
Lieutenant,
Snyder.
anybody?
I have the Division of Patrol. I'm also known as the favorite. I'd also like it read into the record that I'm replacing a very handsome man, a dynamic leader. I probably won't do anywhere near as good a job as the deputy chief. He has been a great inspiration to me, and I want to thank you. The Division of Patrol, so 1st Precinct is recognized.
He's sitting out
in
in
the
the
hall.
hall.
He's in the hall.
James Morgan, come in here real quick. It's my North. James has the North County Precinct, the largest precinct, the most radio calls, generates the most reports, has a big job. That's James. 2nd Precinct is Captain Romo. He's my 2nd best captain on the police department, my 2nd best. You ask me who's first is everybody else. Captain Romo. He has the 2nd precinct.
The 2nd.
He has a lot of contract agencies in there. Who do you provide your patrol services for?
Yeah.
he's got a lot going on. Thank you, sir. The 3rd precinct, Guy Means. He has Afton Southwest Precinct. He has one of the newest precincts that we have built, and he has contract patrols. What cities do you have? Green Park. The 4th precinct, Captain Shellman is at the FBI National Academy, and
I've seen that.
is Tommy Noonan out there? All right, well, I'll address that later. And then we have our contracts. Kevin Lawson has the city of Fenton. Jimmy Mundell's the city of Wildwood. And then we have Captain Aaron Roediger, who has the city of Jennings. And Captain Kelling is Metro Transit, and he was at the inauguration last night, so he's not back yet. And then we have Captain Ware, who has the 7th precinct. Roughly right around 400 employees in the Division of Patrol. Most of the slides that you see are obviously, immediately addressed by the Division of Patrol. I will sit down and I'll show you the big board and all the different things and have in-depth conversations with you about the Division of Patrol as a whole. If you have anything that you want to ask about the Division of Patrol, please feel free to hit me with any questions that you have. Some of my goals is what the marching orders that I got from the chief and the deputy chief. Increase our awareness of our uniform and appearance. We believe we are the best. We want to make sure that we portray that we are the best. So when we're seen on TV or on the internet, we want to make sure that we look the part. Also, the level of professionalism. So I go to the roll calls. I usually have a mobile mic that I like to work with. I go to these roll calls and I talk to the folks and I say, simply treat people the way you want to be treated. Treat people the way you treat your family. Unless you're a real piece of work, then treat them better than what you treat your family. But I want you to be professional, all right? And if we're professional and we're fair, then we're going to be fine. We take care of business when we need to take care of business, but we treat everybody fairly. The chief and the deputy chief had an idea, a concept of a mobile precinct. And so you heard Colonel Law talk about the special response unit. The special response unit mobile precinct is now under the Division of Patrol. So that works directly out of my office. And it's basically it's a growing thing. It's a thing that's still alive, that's still being molded, but it's already been extremely successful. We just started it January 6th. And so there's 20 individuals that are in there. Right now we have 3 sergeants. One is doing administrative work while the other 2 are actually providing leadership on the ground out there in the streets, so to speak. 10 on days, 10 on nights. And their main goal is completely providing customer service for the Division of Patrol. All right? What is customer service for the Division of Patrol? We had a critical incident yesterday. Now, I said, Tony, what is it? Was it 10 blocks? All right. So we had that critical incident that encompassed 10 blocks from basically Lucas and Hunt and West Florissant all the way down to like Ferguson Avenue. So all of those streets, the sidewalks, everything else involved the city of Jennings, the 2nd precinct, and the 1st precinct. But then by the time I got there, there were 18 SRU people there that had relieved the precincts to go back to the precinct while they handled that scene. The big snow days, we had 18 people that were out assisting with all of the stuff that was going on. So while they were doing, basically their mission just shifted is all. And we will eventually be utilizing them at the end of February when we go through the transition of this new weapon system. So they'll start in the 1st precinct in February. So when the first precinct sends 10 people off of days and 10 people off of nights to go to the 3 days of training, SRU will come in and they'll put 10 people on days and 10 people on nights so that the train just keeps going down the tracks. There is no interruption with trying to take a short-staffed precinct and send this group of people to training. And quite frankly, it wouldn't be possible without this mobile precinct. So we'll hit everybody in the first, then we'll hit everybody in the second, the third, the fourth, seventh. Now, the municipal contracts will be a little bit different, but they will also be addressed, as well as the Division of Criminal Investigations, helping out with supplying firearms instructors, or different requests. We'll handle them on I guess a case-by-case basis. So we're really excited about that. They're doing a really good job. And right now, they're all working the same shift, more or less during the day. We brought 20 people together, and we're letting them kind of build a cohesiveness. And then once this weapons system training is over with, then you will see that it's broken into 4 groups of 5. It'll always be 100% staffed because their mission, their goal is to go in and supply support for a precinct. So we had a critical incident yesterday. 2 people or more were involved in it. I'm not sure because I haven't drilled down into it. But say there are 5 people that need to be off. I can just send 5 people over and the train keeps going. And that's why this is going to be a really vital asset to the Division of Patrol and the department. So it's something completely new, and it's going to be the new part of 2025 for us. Now, I know I didn't talk as long as these other gentlemen, but do you have any questions for me about?
Any
Do
questions?
those sergeants report to you? The SRU sergeants?
The SRU sergeants report to, like I said, this is a living, breathing thing that we're adapting to. So eventually there will be an intermediary between us, yes. But right now, as we're just starting, they're reporting to me right now. Actually, we have a system worked out. It's working well. Looking forward to things are moving.
Nobody.
If you want to take me out to lunch, I will gladly talk. That
would be a long lunch.
Yeah. Any questions that you may have?
Okay.
I have one.
Yes, sir.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, good.
So make sure we understand for patrol then, because everyone else has kind of said, here's what my 2025 plan is. Yours is execution. Is that what we heard? Because we've got chief telling you stuff, deputy chief.
Focus on professionalism.
Yeah, that's all execution stuff as
Yeah.
opposed to
It's
strategy
all-
per se.
The division is running very well. Like I said, I joke around, but I was given a perfectly good, a perfectly airtight vessel. All right, so there's nothing that I'm going to change other than leadership and a leadership change and some of the administrative things and the mobile precinct.
Mobile precinct.
Now, the captains, I'm sure, will be able to say he's completely different, or that, you can drill down on me with them. So I don't know what it's like to work for me. So
How is the morale of the troops? The guys out,
well, I received
coming out every day?
I received compliments from the first and the second on the mobile precinct. I think that their morale will increase with not feeling left alone. So sometimes I think when you're riding in an area, you're riding in a precinct, you're multiple beats down for a bunch of different reasons. Pregnancies, injuries, the list goes on. I think sometimes when they're doing it over and over and over again, they're like, is anybody paying attention? And I think when all of a sudden just 5 people show up, they're like, okay, you know, somebody's paying attention. The captains will call me and they'll be like, hey, are you? And I'm like, hey man, I'm fully aware. I get your roster every Monday morning and we know exactly what you're going through. Just because I'm not calling you and telling you it'll be okay, I'm sending, you know, they know. So when somebody shows up in mass like that to say, what do you need? I think that it helps with morale. That's just my opinion.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Well done.
I'll keep this very short. This is not my report. Just listen to these guys. You talked about the transition and how these guys go from one position, one unit that they're leading to another, and they fall right in. We call that informal succession planning, okay? You've been around, you've done these things, and you know what it's all about. When you get in that leadership position, you know how to run it. I'm not going to stand here and say they make my job easier, but they do a great job of assisting me down in that hallway, along with the deputy chief. And as you can see, they're a group of people that our board ought to be very proud of what they do. Just listen to the reports that they gave. So I'll pat them on the back for that. It's not just a pat, it's the truth. If you heard.
Before you go on, I'd like to say something about that, about the reports and such. So I am a veteran on this board, and this is really the first time that I recall such a thorough overview of all of the operations. You know, we've gotten bits and pieces and just different kinds of transitions over time, but I am more, what can I say, impressed with all of the energy, all of the hard work that has gone on behind the scenes. Even having been here for this period of time, there's still so many intricate details that make the whole system operate. And so I really want you all to hear that. In the past several years, there have been a number of transitions that presented challenges, and yet you have continued to keep the ship floating and floating well. So I just want to congratulate you. I want to thank you. I am humbled by the kind of work that you do and the commitment you have to your calling.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I guess they all knew I was coming today, huh?
They knew you were coming, so we put on a show for you.
That was helpful also, some of the questions.
You heard just about every one of these guys talk about grants and the funding that we get from acquiring grants. And grants are awfully hard to acquire because it's not just us applying for grants. There are departments all over the nation applying for grants. And we have one of probably the most outstanding grant writers that I know of. And she's not here today, but she does a great job of doing our grants for us. So,
Who is that, Chief?
Erica Harden, Erica Harden, yeah. She writes all our grants and again, helps us acquire quite a bit. You heard a lot about the mobile precinct and how we took the SRU from that position, put them in patrol, and they're gonna assist patrol out there. One of the biggest concerns that we got when we decided to do that was from our federal partners who our SRUs assisted quite a bit. The U.S. Marshals handling their crimes, picking up the most violent criminals out there, and there was some grief that we kind of took, about the fact that we were dismantling that SRU unit. I did talk with the Marshal commander down there, let him know that that's not the case, that if he's willing to deputize the other officers that we're bringing into the SRU, they'll still be there to assist him. We're using our intelligence people to help with their assistance, bringing in these violent criminals, and we're using our street team to assist them. So that was just kind of a misunderstanding that was had. We're still there to do that. The communications contract that you will vote on later with Ferguson, we have spent more hours and more time with the Department of Justice trying to make sure that if we sign this contract, that we wouldn't fall into any of the restrictions that Ferguson has on them because of their consent decree. and our council people across the street, Colonel Mann, EDSCOM, all participated in that, and we feel secure with the fact that we're going to be able to sign this communications contract with Ferguson and not fall into any of the restrictions that they have on them based on the consent decree. CBA contract was just completed. We have people here that did that, Colonel Lohr, Julie Wagner, Captain Mundell, and Jennifer Bauman helped us complete this. It was a task, believe me, but we got it done, so. That's about all I have, sir.
Thank you, Chief. And again, to pick up on Commissioner Hassler, I apologize. I know we went a little longer in our open session than we normally do, but I think it was well worth it in hearing from, we always talk about, and we all interact with our executive command staff, but it's nice to hear from each of them specifically on what they do. And we're all very proud of the work that's ongoing. And to continue that in, oh, there's Erica.
There she is.
We talked about your grant writing.
Grant writer.
Yes. But to continue that in the coming months, we're going to hear from captains, from some of our captains, and tell us what they're doing. Same thing, so we can hear more in detail.
That'll start next month.
Starting next month. So apologize for the extra time that we took, but I think it was well worth it.
No doubt.
Okay, thank you. Well, before we move on, we've heard from our new member of the team. I started off the meeting by saying we changed around our lineup a bit, and we added to the lineup with a new superstar, Tony Thompson. And Tony is Commissioner Thompson, longtime St. Louis County resident. His brother was a police officer. He's a staunch supporter of the police department. He is a board member of the Police Foundation. I'll say that again. He's a board member of the Police Foundation. He's received awards from various police organizations, including the FBI, which gave him a Community Service Award. So we are privileged and happy to have Tony join us as a new superstar and filling out our starting five. Welcome. Okay. With that, in front of you, board, we should have the 2018 and December 18, 2024, and December 24 minutes. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll motion that we approve December 18 and December 24, 2024 meeting minutes.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Amy, do we have any letters of communication?
No, sir.
No incoming, outgoing? Okay, thank you. Any old business? Item 9.
Quick question. Yes, sir. The first one is, where are we on with the VRC group? Has that been any change in that violent crime initiative?
Yes, sir, we're moving on with it. We're getting together with part of another organization soon. I say soon, in the next 30 to 60 days. Going over the cases that were sent to them and then going from there. So just
You say you had 2 questions.
Well, the second one was much more tactical, which is, Chief, any update on, I had somebody ask me this morning, where's the yearbook from 3 years ago? Otherwise, I wouldn't have thought about it because it's far gone, but any update on the yearbook from 2022?
Yes, sir, there is. I spoke with the person handling that just the other day about the fact that we don't have these books after 3 years. I keep hearing excuses. The next one is that we'll have them by the end of this quarter. I've contacted Dana Red Wing to see if there's anything legal that we can do with these people, with the fact that we have been waiting on these things for 3 years. She hasn't gotten back to me yet. There are excuses that we didn't do our part of it, which maybe some things that were missed, but as I spoke with him, 3 years, you could not make up the things that we missed to the fact that we could have our yearbooks now. So that was just last week. I spoke with them, and the next date is the end of this quarter. We shall see.
That answered your question, the person who asked.
Captain, you had something? No. Oh, I talked to Captain. I saw your hand.
Our,
go up.
our
I thought you
yearbook,
had
our
more.
yearbook is now a decade
I said,
book.
I know.
It's a decade book. Any new business? All right, well, we have in front of us, item 10, we have contracts from A through M we'll deal with initially. On contracts A through M, I'm assuming everyone has reviewed. Is there a motion that we approve contracts A through M?
So moved.
Contracts.
Okay, there was a movement and a second. Thank you for the second. There a vote that we approve A through M. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? On N, this is the agreement that the chief alluded to with the city of Ferguson. It's a recommendation to approve a new contract between St. Louis County and the city of Ferguson. The contract is for coordinated computer-aided report entry and communication services. The initial term is for $258,536 and goes into effect upon execution through December 31, 2029. The City Council of Ferguson will be considering a request to authorize execution of the contract with the county for the described services today, January 14, 2025. If the City Council adopts the resolution necessary to authorize the execution of the contract, the draft contract will be updated to reflect the resolution number prior to the execution. So based upon them approving it, is there a motion that we accept the agreement in N?
I move that we accept the professional, that we accept the police service agreement for the city of Ferguson.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item 11, we are going to move to discussion in our closed session, and we will revisit after we reconvene. Do we have anything for the public forum, Amy?
I do not know.
Okay. The Board of Police Commissioners may vote to go into closed meeting for legal advice and review of claims and lawsuits involving the police department, Section 610.0211, RSMO, and Section 114.020.11, SLCRO, and discussion of employee and personnel matters, Section 610.0213 and 13 RSMO, and Sections 114.020.13 and 13 SLCRO. Is there a motion that we move to closed session?
Move to closed session.
Second.
Amy, you want to vote?
Commissioner Ashworth?
Yes.
Commissioner Banks?
Yes.
Commissioner Hassler?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wild?
Yes.
We are now moved to close. Okay, we had one vote in closed session, that is to return to open session. As such, we are back open, and we have two items on the agenda to address. The first, item 11, is the merit increases for non-bargaining professionals, staff of the police department. Is there a motion, sir, for us?
I will make a motion to approve the chief's recommendation on non-bargaining unit pay proposal, salary scale, and including 2025 wage increases and salaries for each of those people.
Second motion.
Any discussion? Vote?
Salary scale. Uh-huh. Pay ranges. I will amend my motion. Motion to approve the chief's recommendation on non-bargaining unit pay, inclusive of pay ranges and the corresponding 2025 salaries.
You just have your second, sir. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and the other item, I'm sorry, sir?
Just said thank you to Jennifer for clarifying the
Oh,
law.
okay. Item 14, is the approval of the chief and deputy chief salaries as discussed. Is there a motion to approve those?
I will motion to approve the 2025 salaries for the chief and the deputy chief.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Is there if there is nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
Are those numbers on a document? They are? Pardon me? Email attachment, salary increases for chief and deputy chief? I didn't title it.
Yeah, we didn't title it.
I didn't put a title on it, just. We do. That is correct. All right.
Anything else before we have a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
That's a hint, Mike.
Oh, did we move and second that? No, not to adjourn.
You moved to adjourn, I
But
seconded.
I did not, but I will.
Okay.
No.
Mike's ready to go.
It has been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor, yes, to do a roll call.
Commissioner Ashworth.
Yes.
Commissioner Banks.
Yes.
Commissioner Hassler.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Wild.
Yes.
We never had these problems. We're adjourned.